Hello everyone! Today's book is Mindy Kim Makes a Splash. Let's read together. Chapter 1. My name is Mindy Kim. I am 9 years old and I don't know how to swim. I can splash around in shallow water and swim with floaties and inflatable tubes if I have to. But I never really learned how to swim. And I thought I wouldn't have to learn anytime soon. Until one day we got permission slips passed around in our PE class. We're going to start our swimming unit in PE soon, said Coach Jenkins. That means we'll start having PE in the community pool next to our school, instead of the gym. Be sure to tell your parents. All the kids in the class cheered. Yay, I love swimming, said my best friend Sally. I can't wait to go to the pool during PE. Everyone seemed really happy about the news when she noticed that I wasn't smiling and cheering like everyone else. Sally asked, What's wrong, Mindy? Do you not like to swim? I glanced around to check if anyone was listening and whispered so only Sally could hear. I don't know how. What? Sally looked shocked. Did you not learn how to swim? We all learned when we were little. I shook my head. We never learned how in my old class in San Francisco. We just always had PE at the gym, and my dad never signed me up for lessons or anything either. Oh, Sally scrunched her chin. I guess that makes sense. Here, everyone learns to swim pretty early, I think, since we live so close to the beach and all. But wait a minute, isn't San Francisco always close to the beach? I nod. Yeah, but the water is usually too cold to swim in it. The beaches there are different from the ones here. A lot of my friends at my old school didn't know how to swim either. Sally wrinkled her nose. That shocks. Well, the permission slip says that you don't have to participate if you don't know how to swim. Maybe you can do something else instead? Maybe, I nodded, but deep inside I felt sad. I didn't want to be the only one in my class who wasn't in the water having fun during PE. It's also not too late for you to get swim lessons, Sally added. I think the beginner classes at the community pool are usually for little kids, but maybe you can join in. I perked up. That's a great idea, Sally. I'm going to ask my dad if he can sign me up. Maybe there was hope after all. Chapter 2. Later that evening, my family and I sat at the table for dinner. Today we were eating bibimbap along with some dumplings that my new stepmom, Julie, had made. Since Dad and I are Korean and Julie is Chinese, we always try to eat food for both our cultures as much as we can. Dad and Julie had recently gotten back from their honeymoon, so they still had chance. Dad especially looked pretty funny because he had white circles around his eyes from where he'd worn sunglasses. Dad and I and my dog Theodore the mutt were still getting used to having Julie live with us. I loved her, but she'd just moved in a few days ago, right after they got back from their trip. It was still weird to have another person in the house. Dad and Julie seemed really happy, though, so I didn't mind. They are always smiling and laughing. I like seeing Dad laugh so much. And Julie was nice to Theodore and me, too. At the beginning of dinner, Dad and Julie talked about something funny that had happened at work today. The two of them work at the same company. It's how they first met. They laughed as they ate, and I smiled too, even though I had no idea what they were talking about. Sometimes it's easier to just pretend to know what other people are saying, especially if they're adults. But then Dad said, How about you, Mindy? How was your day? Now was my chance. I ran to my room, got the PE permission slip from my backpack, and showed it to Dad. He put his chopsticks back down on his boil so he could take the paper from me. Swimming in PE class, he exclaimed when he read the paper. That sounds fun, but Mindy, you don't know how to swim. I sadly shook my head. Nope, all the other kids in my class know how, but I don't. That's so cool that you guys can swim for PE, Julie said. That's pretty rare. I guess your school is lucky since there's the community pool right next door. There's also that beach nearby, so I get why the school wants the kids around here to know how to swim, Dad added. He frowned and looked back at me. Well, Mindy, maybe you can still participate with floaties on, or stick to the shallow end. I'll email your teacher and I will figure something out. Okay, I said. Dad and Julie went back to eating, but I didn't go back to my spot at the table. Appa? I asked. Appa is the Korean word for daddy. Um, Dad replied, looking up from his food. All the other kids are going to make fun of me if I had flurries on. And even if they don't, I don't want to be the only kid in my class who can't swim. It'll be too embarrassing. Can I get swim lessons? Sally said that the community pool offers classes. Dad glanced at Julie, who nodded. Dad turned back to me and shrugged. I don't see why not, he said. Swimming is a valuable life skill, and it'd been fun if you could properly learn. Then we could go on a family snorkeling vacation in Key West during one of your school breaks. While we were away for your honeymoon, Julie and I actually talked about how we definitely want to go back there with you someday. It was really nice, Julie added. We could maybe even bring theater if we can find a pet-friendly hotel. We all looked at Theodore. He wagged his tail and barked with excitement. Family vacation in Key West sounded like a dream come true. Thanks, Appa, I said. I'll work extra hard to learn how to swim. Chapter 3. On the first day of PE at school, Coach Jenkins bought me a kickboard and a pair of floaties. Your dad told me you don't know how to swim yet, Mindy, he said. But if you still want to get in the water, you can with this, and I'll kept an eye out of you, and the community pool lifeguards will too. Just be sure to stick to the shallow end and try practicing moving around in the water. Hopefully, one of these days you can join your classmates in the lab lines. Besides me, there was only one other kid in our class who couldn't swim. I didn't know him too well other than the fact that his name was Charlie. Charlie and I moved around in the shallow end with our floaties and kickboards while watching the other kids do laps in the pool. It stank. The water felt nice and warm, but I wish I could be swimming with my classmates. To make things worse, we caught the attention of Brandon and his friends, aka the mean kids. They looked at us and laughed. Look at those babies over there, Brandon said. There's nine like us, but they can't even swim. Charlie and I glanced at each other. Charlie looked outest sad as I felt. At the end of class, Sally tried to cheer me up. It's okay, Mindy, she said. We can't all be good at everything. Yeah, I replied, but I'm hoping able I'll be able to swim soon. I asked my dad if I could take swim lessons, just like you suggested, and he had yes. I'm going to get really good at swimming, way better than Brandon and his friends. I must have said the last part too loudly because Brandon heard and came over to where we were standing by the pool. With a mean smile on his face, he said, "Oh yeah, you want to bet? Then why don't you race me one of these days? We'll see who's the best swimmer then. That is, if you can manage not to drown." Before I could respond, he and his friends walked away, laughing. Don't listen to him, Mindy, Sally said. You should focus on learning how to actually swim fast. Racing someone when you're not ready is dangerous. It's dangerous. I knew my friend were right, but I was still mad at Brandon. He was just so mean. I clenched my fist. I was going to work hard during swim lessons and practice every day. I was going to become an expert at swimming, and then I was going to beat Brandon. Chapters 4. Before my first swim lesson at the pool, Dad helped me put on my gorgies. The one pair of gorgies in the house was Julie's. The gorgies were a little too big for me, even when Dad tightened them all the way. They also had a weird tint that made the entire world look orange when I wore them. The color made me a little dizzy. Sorry, this was the only thing we could find at the moment, kiddo, Dad said when we got out of the car. We'll have to get you your own pair of gorgies soon. I was sad about the gorgies, but I knew how lucky I was to be able to sign up for swim lessons so last minute. It's okay, Dad. It's better than nothing. When we got to the pool, I was really embarrassed to see that most of the kids in the beginners class were way younger than me. They were around my baby cousin's age, like 6. I scrunched up my shoulders, hoping that no one would make fun of me or ask why I was in this class. Dad may have noticed I was embarrassed because he said, "Sorry, Mandy, the class above this one for older kids seem a bit too advanced skill-wise for you. Maybe we can move you up to that level once you've covered the basics here." "It's okay, Dad," I said again. "Good luck," Dad said. "I'll be watching from the bleachers." "Thanks," I smiled and tried to keep a positive attitude as I approached the pool. But it was really hard, especially when one of the little boys pointed at me and said, "What's she doing here? She's a big kid." "That the teacher, Miss Wilson," replied. Now, you're never too old to learn how to swim. Everyone here is actually still learning pretty early. Later this evening, I teach a swim class for adults." All gasped. The little kids thankfully stopped staring at me after that. Before any of us got into the water, Miss Wilson had us to stretches and other warm-ups. "It's super important to remember not to start swimming as soon as you get to the pool," she said. "It might make you feel conscious to hop around the stretch when everyone else is swimming, but we all need to spend some more warming up before we get into the water. Remember, safety first." When we were all done warming up, Miss Wilson had us line up and sit along the edge of the shallow end of the pool. We dipped our feet in the water. It felt so nice. "Okay," Miss Wilson continued as she gave each of us a pair of floaties. "The most important thing to learn when you're starting off swimming is breath work. Once we get on a water, that what we're going to do is hold our breath to make a balloon face before we submerge our heads under the surface." She got into the pool and then blew up her cheeks wide so she could like a puffer fish. Then she stuck her face into the water. Then she came back out. She opened her mouth with a pa sound. It looked silly, but it looked kind of fun too. "Now you try," Miss Wilson said. One by one, we got into the pool. When it was my turn, I made a balloon face and put my head in the water. Underneath the surface, everything was muffled. My gorgies had made everything look orange already, but down here they also made things look shimmery and bright. After a few seconds, I left my head up again, like Miss Wilson had done. I opened my mouth and said, "Pa!" There were a lot of kids who got it on the first try like me, but some of the little ones weren't too happy. One kid even cried after putting her head under the water. After making sure she was okay, Miss Wilson told the rest of us, "Good. Now let's try doing this a few more times." We made balloon faces, put our heads in the water, and surfaced while saying "Pa." again and again. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing and add bubbles this time, said Miss Wilson. Make bubbles with your mouth for 5 seconds before coming up to say pa. By the time we finished, I felt really impatient. I'd signed up for this class to learn how to swim, not make bubbles. I raised my hand. Yes, Mindy, said Miss Wilson. When are we going to learn actual swimming? I asked. Miss Wilson smiled. Probably not until the next class. Today we're going to focus on breath work and floating on our stomachs. Both are essential to being safe in the water. I frowned. Breathing and floating didn't seem that important to me, but I trust her. She was an expert after all. About halfway into class, Miss Wilson took each of us one by one, out into the water. She guided us out into the surface. When it was my turn, I was afraid I'd sink. Oh, drown! But then I remembered to blow my bubbles for 5 seconds and left my head. Soon I felt my body rise to the surface like it was supposed to. Excellent job, Mindy, Miss Wilson exclaimed. You're making really good progress. Floating was not swimming, but it was cool to feel my body being left by the water. I was one step closer to becoming swim champion and beating Brandon. Okay, today's book will end it up here. Okay, I hope you like this book and this video. Okay, bye. Thanks for watching.